eyes. Still, when one thought about it, this was information pertaining to the criminals that had conducted a terror attack on the city. There were things which could and could not be said to adventurers. From their belongings, we learned the enemy was from Zuranon. The faces of the three adventurers turned grim. However, this was the first time Ains had heard that name. He fervently prayed to the gods he did not believe in that the others would not question him on this topic about which he knew nothing. Ignorance is frightening, I need to learn more. That undead controlling secret society? I guess they really are linked with that vampire. So their aim was to trigger incidents within and outside the city to split our forces? Or are both of them decoys, and is the real plan about to begin? This is terrible. The most important thing is to make a reconnaissance. From what the rangers told us, there's a cave near the location where the vampire was sighted. Apparently, that cave is a bandit's hideout. It's quite likely that the vampire has already departed that location. Still, there's a non-zero chance of it remaining there, so we should send someone over. The adventurer who spoke immediately shut his mouth. That was a natural reaction. After all, anyone heading to a likely location of that vampire was essentially saying that they wanted to walk right into danger. If they really encountered the vampire, and if the vampire was as powerful as rumored, then certain death awaited them. Those words were an indirect way of telling someone to kill themselves. Let's leave that aside for now. It's more important to strengthen the city's defenses. After all, the vampire might have infiltrated the city during this time, for all we know. Well, it would be easy enough to infiltrate the city, as long as it could use magic. After all, this is not like the imperial capital, with air cavalry and magic casters on patrol. One could use fly to enter from the air, or walk right in with invisibility for concealment. Magic was very troublesome to deal with, which was why consolidating their fighting strength and mounting a defense was the most logical course of action. Still, it's really hard to do anything without any concrete information. We really should investigate that cave. The opinions of everyone present gradually began shifting in favor of that extremely sensible proposal. It would be very bad for Ains if that came to pass. Allowing Shaltyr's appearance to become public knowledge would be a very bad thing. Although he did not know exactly how it would play out, allowing Shaltyr's current appearance to disseminate through the city, perhaps even through the nation, would make covert actions very difficult in future. Ains desperately tried to think of a way to guide the situation in another direction. In the end, there was only one way to avoid exposing Shaltyr's identity. Ains gulped, though there was nothing for him to swallow, and said, "To begin with, you are mistaken. That vampire has nothing to do with Zuranon." "Why is that, Mamonkun? Do you know something about this?" "I know the name of that vampire, because I have been hunting that creature for a long time." "What?" The air shuddered. Ains' brain spun into overdrive. The main event was about to begin. "It is an extremely powerful vampire. In truth, the reason I became an adventurer was to collect information about them." This was a red herring, but Einzak took the bait. "Them? Mamonkun, did you just say them?" "Yes, I did. There are two of these vampires, and one of them, the silver-haired female, is known as..." He suddenly stopped here. Originally, he was going to say Carmilla, but a name like that was far too normal for a female vampire. If there were any other players around, that name would swiftly clue them in about his presence. Just as he was waffling over what name to give them, a flash of inspiration struck, and he blurted a name, Honiopinyoto. Eh? That idiotic-sounding reply had not come from one mouth. Just about everyone had exclaimed in the same way. Her name is Honiopinyoko. He had come up with the name himself, but he felt that it was slightly different from the one he had mentioned just before that. Still, if anyone pressed him with their doubts, he intended to maintain that he had misspoke. Honiopinyo. It's Honiopinyoko. While he had given a female vampire a name ending with KO, no Yggdrasil player should have been able to guess that he had made it up. Filled with pride at this perfect choice of names, Ains smiled smugly under his helmet. Is that so?" That Hunyo, forget it. Since we know that female vampire's name, it's about time you told us your true identity, no? Which country are you? I apologize, but I cannot say that right now. Currently, I am on a highly secret mission. If you find out, I will have no choice but to leave this land, and then you will have to deal with the vampire yourself. I do not wish to have this become an international incident. You understand, don't you, Mayor? The mayor nodded slowly, and as Einzak saw this he bit his lip, and looked intently at Ains. The guildmaster's stare meant nothing to Ains. However, he did not know if they had bought his story, or if it contained any contradictions. Those 2 points of uncertainty filled Ains' heart with unease, but Ains brushed it aside with an brusqueness that would brook no interference and continued, "Our team will handle the reconnaissance. If we find the vampire there, we will slay it on the spot." Thus spoke the late-coming warrior of darkness. Though they could not see his face, they could feel the confidence and determination brimming in his voice. The air filled with a pressure which might have been mistaken for rumbling, and the sigh which followed made everyone think they had made the sound. Then, the other teams will not be needed. I do not need them to slow me down. He waved off all opposition to that plan. That tactless declaration was made with the utmost audacity. That gesture was not a wise one, not among fellow adventurers of equivalent rank. However, all the adventurers here were grizzled veterans of countless life and death struggles. They could sense that his attitude was not born of recklessness, narcissism, or pride, but had been coldly, carefully calculated. At the same time, it spoke volumes of Mamon's own strength that he could make such a statement. This was an extraordinary man. It seemed as though his black armor was growing before their eyes, and the pressure they felt made them imagine that the room itself was shrinking. They could sense that this man was one they could not hope to surpass, as though he were an adamantite-ranked adventurer. This man was a hero. Einzak choked his words back, and then took several deep breaths. In fact, everyone present was doing the same, and the mayor even opened up his collar, his sweat flowing freely. In a quiet voice, as though whispering into Mamon's ear, Einzak asked, "What about your payment?" "I don't mind discussing that afterwards. However, after this incident is resolved, after the discovery and destruction of the vampire, I would like an orichalcum rank at the very least. That would make it more convenient for me when I track that other vampire, because it is tiresome to have to keep proving my strength." Everyone present gasped in realization. Adventurers did not work for cities or countries, but this city did not have any orichalcum-ranked adventurers at the moment. If he became one of the highest-ranked adventurers of this city, everybody would know his name. In addition, the rarity of orichalcum-ranked adventurers meant that their fame would spread even further. In this way, people would come to him with dangerous missions, and it would allow him to learn about powerful vampires. However, there was a man whose heart refused to accept this, even if he had already been persuaded on an intellectual level. A chair screeched, and as all eyes went to the source of the sound, needless to say, it was Igvarj, who had been hectoring Ains all this while. "I can't bring myself to believe in your strength. Besides, it's still not clear if that vampire is as strong as you say. Even animating that corpse could have been done through a magic item. We're going with you." The reason why Igvarj could still muster up his opposition to Ains despite being shaken to the core was purely because of his hostility towards Ains and his refusal to acknowledge him. However, his fellow adventurers did not approve of his attitude. Perrault spoke in a barbed tone, "Igvarj, that tone of yours, it's fine." Ains readily agreed to the request. However, there was no kindness in that reply. The following words were cold and ruthless. "That said, I must warn you that if you come along, it'll be certain death for you. Your entire party might be killed as well, for all I know." That matter-of-fact tone did not sound like a threat, nor did it sound like a joke. It was a flat prediction of the future, which sent a shudder through Igvarj's body. In fact, everyone present was chilled to the bone by that statement. Ains shrugged. "That's my warning to you. If you don't mind, then by all means, do come along." Of course. He was bluffing, but he could not back down here. He could not run away from this. How could he, an adventurer of equal rank, disgrace himself before someone in power like the mayor? Just as the tension built again between the two of them, Isaac, who had calmed down a little, asked Ains, "It's all well and good to be confident, but is there any basis for that confidence? Of course, we know that you are strong, but surely you must know that the foe is no pushover either. Frankly speaking, we're not sure if we can leave everything to you either. If for some reason you're defeated, we need to think about what to do after that." Without skipping a beat, Ains replied, "I have a trump card." "What is that?" Ains produced a crystal and showed it to the intrigued Isaac. "It can't be. It's impossible, unbelievable," Rakeshir shouted, before panting, "I once read an old tome. They say that the theocracy possesses powerful magic items which they consider their national treasures. This is one of them, a spell-sealing crystal. How did you come to possess such a thing? How surprising, but you have it right. In addition, this crystal now contains a spell of the 8th tier." "What? What did you just say?" The exclamations that Ains had evoked from Rakeshir were like the cries of a strangled chicken. Even the man's face had distorted to quite a frightening extent. Nor was it just Rakeshir who was shocked. Everybody except the mayor had an expression of fear or surprise on their stunned faces. Any adventurer with even a meager bit of experience could understand the value of the item which Ains had shown to them. "The 8th tier, you're lying, right? It might be a fairy tale, but if it's really magic of that level, it would be nothing short of mythical. Are you kidding me? What kind of nonsense is that?" The three adventurers, even Igvarj, stared intently at the crystal within the black gauntlet, frightened looks on their faces. "Forgive me. Could I borrow that item for a bit?" "Why? It's just a magic caster's curiosity. I vow I will not do anything strange to it. If you wish anything as collateral, I can pledge everything on my person, for instance, this belt." Rakeshir was already unbuckling his belt before he finished. Ains replied in an annoyed tone, "I understand, there's no need for that sort of thing. Here, have a look. Sorry about this, but may I touch it too?" "Me too." The spell-sealing crystal passed through several hands before reaching Rakeshir, who stared dumbly at it, like a woman who had finally obtained a jewel she had long thirsted for. No, one could say that he was like a boy who had found a treasure he had always sought. "Amazing, yes, Momandano, may I cast a spell on it?" After seeing Ains agree with a wave of his hand, Rakeshir eagerly worked his magic. Appraisal magic item, detect enchant. The look on the man's face grew even more exaggerated after he cast those spells, and then, awesome. There was no trace of the man from earlier. Instead, his innocent eyes radiated a look of pure delight, and even his tone was different, like he was a teenager again. "It's true. It's really 8th tier magic. That's all my spells can tell me, but it's awesome, really awesome." He shouted like this over and over again, which left everyone else staring in stunned silence. Then, Rakeshir picked up the crystal, and licked it all over, even mashing it into his face, like he had gone mad. Get a grip. What the hell are you doing?" Isaac rose to his feet and drew close to Rakeshir, disturbed by his friend's sudden bout of insanity. Indeed, everyone was looking at him with an expression of shock or disgust. Such behavior was unsightly, coming from a man so highly placed in the city. "You idiot. How could anyone get a grip? This is seriously awesome. It's got an 8th tier spell inside it, though I don't know what spell it is." Rakeshir continued staring at the crystal in excitement, his eyes sparkling. Before long he had slowly recovered his sanity, and he asked Ains, "Momandano. Where did you find this crystal? Tell me." "It was dug up in a certain ruin, along with many magic items. Of course, the crystal already had the spell sealed inside it by the time it was discovered. I had a powerful magic caster identify it." "I see. Then where is the site of this ruin?" "All I can tell you is that it is very far away." Rakeshir bit his lip as he heard Ain's matter-of-fact reply. Then, could I have it back? Okie. Rakeshire looked around, then reluctantly returned the crystal to Ains. As he watched Ains wipe the crystal clean with a piece of parchment, he suddenly exclaimed, back to the point, I oppose Ains-sen going forth to slay the vampire. A shocked silence settled over the room once more, and Einzak palmed his face. He grimaced and then asked in a severe tone, why the sudden opposition? Well, I already know why, but still, I have to ask. Oh, it's because it would be too much of a waste. He's gone completely insane, Einzak decided as he looked on his friend and decided to discard his opinion. Well then, leaving Rakeshire's words aside, please wait. Magic of the 8th tier is practically of a divine level. How can you use such a valuable item on a mere vampire? Anger boiled in Einzak's eyes. He could no longer tolerate these outbursts, especially not from someone as highly placed as Rakeshire. Then, Einzak choked back his wrath, and calmly told the other man, forgive me, Rakeshire, but please don't continue making a scene. The powerful subtext in those words returned Rakeshire to his senses, and left him speechless. The slight blush in his cheeks was probably due to embarrassment at his earlier actions. After glancing at his friend to make sure he was back to normal, Einzak decided to formalize the request. Then, Mom and Kuan, will be leaving everything to you. Ains nodded confidently in response to Einzak's humble submission. I understand. Then, he looked at Igvarj through the slit of his helmet. We'll be moving out as soon as possible. Vampires suffer a penalty of slowed movement under daylight. Penalty? A weakness, then? They do move slowly in the day. Our side will be ready soon. Not going to discuss it with your comrades? It's fine, they'll understand. Is that so? Then, we'll meet at Irantel's main gate in an hour. 1 hour? Isn't that a bit too soon? There's still a long time before sunset. I am in a big hurry. If your courage is lacking and you need some time to psyche yourselves up, then I'll leave you here and go on my own. Any questions? I get it. We'll prepare ourselves right away. There was clear anger in Igvarj's voice as he rose after speaking. Ains coldly glared at Igvarj's retreating back, and then turned to look at the other people who were in the room. Then, we shall set out immediately. I hope everyone else will defend Irantel. I do not wish to return after not having encountered the vampire to find that a troublesome situation has developed. Well, I can't say there won't be any problems, but you can leave it to us. If you meet any danger, I pray you will fall back immediately. Ains nodded and then left. Diamond suit. In the end, there were only 3 people left in the room, Panasolii, Einzak, and Rakeshire, who still had a love-struck expression on his face. I apologize for showing you that embarrassing side of myself. It's fine, don't worry. Panasolii smiled sheepishly at Rakeshire's apology. However, their opinion of him had changed greatly. Rakeshire also felt that it had been quite an unsightly display on his part, but even so, he found it difficult to conceal his excitement. He had met Lizzie the herbalist some time ago, and she had eagerly shared the matter of the potion with him. As he listened to her excited exposition back then, he had regarded her with cool eyes and wondered if it was truly worth shouting about. Now, however, he wanted to laugh at his past self. He now understood the uncontrollable surprise and emotional upheaval one felt when an unattainable object appeared before one's eyes. Was that truly such a valuable item? Rakeshire fell silent. This was because he was struggling to suppress the boyish glee which was welling up within him. Yes. That item could change everything we know about magic. The fact is, magic above the 6th tier only resides in the legends. That was the first time I personally saw something like that. The spells known as tiered magic had appeared in this world about 500 to 600 years ago. After that, there had been several heroic magic users, but the rumors of people other than the 13 heroes using spells of the 7th tier and up were exactly that, rumors. In the heroic sagas, there was a hero who once used a spell which made people conclude that it's impossible even with magic of the 7th tier or higher, but most people thought that it was just a story. In addition, the question of whether the 13 heroes actually used magic of the 7th tier and up was also in doubt. However, Rakeshir thought, these stories might not be entirely fictional. He made a mental note of this and told himself to investigate them when he had time. For instance, the Goblin King who slew many dragons with an ash branch, the winged hero who soared through the sky for long periods, the mystic knight who rode a tri-head dragon, the princess who ruled her crystal city with her 12 loyal knights, and so on. Then, can we trust him? Naturally, Panasolii was referring to Ains. I received a potion from an adventurer in stylish black full plate, and threw it at the vampire, causing it to fall back. That was the testimony of the sole surviving adventurer. Thus, they had consulted the city's most renowned herbalist, Lizzie Bearer, about the matter. What they had learned was that the potion was a magic item just as valuable as the spell-sealing crystal from just now. While one might only be suspicious if he possessed just one exotic item, it was only natural to wonder who he was if he possessed 2 of them. Still, why had the vampire halted its attack? There were 2 possibilities. One was that they were in opposition. The other was that there was some link between them. This was why they wanted to see if such a relationship existed. Was Mammon really a foe of this vampire? Do you think he's in cahoots with the vampire? This was what they were truly worried about, and the 3 of them thought back to their conversation with Mammon. I think the possibility of that is very low. What do you think, Rakeshir? I agree. There are better ways to pretend to kill the vampire, and then conceal her. Even if Mammon really was linked to the vampire, the response outlined earlier would do him no good at all. Could it be he just wants to become an Orichalcum-ranked adventurer? I doubt it, Mayor. Adventurers enjoy fame and prestige, but command little power. What are the benefits of becoming an Orichalcum-ranked adventurer, Einzak? Well, you can accept better paying requests, and you'll be more famous. If you're lucky, you might even be offered a government post with good terms, although, that's about it. Power can be much more easily gained through other means. The most telling impression of adventurers was that they were specialized anti-monster mercenaries. Certainly, it was possible that one might become the leader of the local chapter of the Adventurers Guild, but they would still be unable to reach a position where they could dictate national policy. If wealth was his aim, he could sell that crystal, and never have to worry about money for the rest of his life. Someone as strong as him could rise in fame quickly enough. The fact is, quite a few of the city guard are already calling him a legendary hero. Panasolii nodded in agreement. He had taken out a towering undead creature in one hit, and then mowed through countless undead like a storm, leaving shattered bodies in his wake. These awe-inspiring sights were truly those which would be associated with a great hero. The guards eagerly spread their accounts of Mammon's prowess, patting their chests, and declaring that there would be no need to fear monsters with him around. That said, I regret to say that we have no evidence to prove his reliability. Still, there are no contradictions in what Mammon has said so far, and if he really was an enemy, why would he show us that spell-sealing crystal? I think we can trust him. Rakeshir's words put a grimace on the face of the other 2 men. That expression